Hello, once again. I am Doc Rodden, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-hosts on the net. And tonight we are reviewing *Malignant*, the new film from James Wan, out in theaters and on HBO Max right now. Of course, joining me tonight is all the way from Gruesome Magazine, Dave Dreher. Dave, how you doing?
Yeah, you got to quit having these podcasts at all these different locations. It took me like 6 hours to get from Gruesome to here.
Yeah, did it?
It's too much time.
Too much time. I could play into that, but I just don't know how. All right. Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher Chi Moore. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. You're so overly dramatic, Dave. It's almost like you were in the film *Malignant*.
Overly dramatic, he says.
Overly dramatic.
All right. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to start off giving our first impression of the film, and that will be spoiler-free. And then we're going to dive into the discussion, which we will dive into spoilers, especially that wacky-ass ending. And then we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts. Our score,
just the ending?
1 to 5. Well, especially that. And our favorite scene. But before we do, if you enjoy this review and many others that we have on the site, we hope you do, and thank you. And we hope that I totally botched this, but we're going to keep going. Hit the subscribe button down below, hit the like button, and share with a friend. It does wonders. And of course, we want to hear your comments about the film. There should be plenty for you to comment upon in the film and in this upcoming podcast review. All right, so what film are we talking about? The much anticipated *Malignant*, coming from Warner Brothers, available in theaters and on HBO Max beginning September 10th, 2021. Synopsis: Madison is paralyzed by shocking visions of grisly murders, and her torment worsens as she discovers that these waking dreams are in fact terrifying realities. It's directed by James Wan, written by James Wan, Ingrid Bisu, and Akilah Cooper. The cast includes Annabelle Wallis, Maddie Hassan, George Young, Nicola Brianna White, Jean Louisa Kelly, Jacqueline McKenzie, Christian Clemenson, Yamir Abu Ella, and Zoe Bell. Of course, this is James Wan's return to horror before he goes back to Aquaman 2 that he's filming now. All right, let's see what we think of this. Who should start? I'm going to start off with Dave Dreher. What was your first impression of *Malignant*?
I really enjoyed *Malignant*. I've watched it 3 times now.
I
watched it 3. Well, I watched it the first time on my computer in a hotel room. So I thought, I want to watch it again, on a semi-big screen once I got home. So I watched it again, and then I just watched it again. And I have to say, it doesn't really age that. The first viewing is the best, without a doubt. And hopefully most people can go into it not knowing what's happening, because the what the fuck moment is truly a what the fuck moment. So I hope we can manage to keep it secret. Hopefully we don't reveal too much here. Maybe.
We will later, but it is spoilers for those who have seen it.
But I loved it. I think this is James Wan doing what he does best. I just love the look of the house and the hospital. I mean, I could just stare at the artistic design of how he set it up and lit it, and how it looked. It just looked like what a scary haunted hospital should look like. I mean, it really did. That scene when the sister drives around and she kind of comes out of a tunnel, I guess it is, and you see that sitting up on the hill, and I just thought it looked gorgeous. And the same with the outside of the house. He just lights it so well. It was really, really great. And again, when you go into it blind and you don't know what's happening, it was just a lot of fun. But when I watched it the second time, because I knew the what the moment, it wasn't as I noticed some flaws, which I'm sure Christopher is going to point out. And by the time the third viewing, the flaws were very, very evident. So, but with that all being said, I'm going to review this based on my first viewing of it, and it really kind of totally blew me away. I really enjoyed it.
But are they flaws or design?
Well, that's just it. Whatever they are, whatever they're going to be, they distract on repeated viewings.
Ah, well, that's a good point. All right, Christopher G. Morse, sir, it is your time. What was your first impression of *Malignant*?
This movie was one of the most frustrating watches of this year for me. It's like if a soap opera wanted to make a giallo film. It's like if Lifetime wanted to make a horror film. It's like if SNL did a parody of a giallo, it would be this. And I think more than anything, I'm kind of irritated that people are acting like that he made this bad on purpose to emulate something. It's just a bad movie. It's a mess of a movie. And no matter how people can make excuses for it. I mean, I've had people like, oh, this is so genius because he's emulating giallo. He's emulating 90s films. It's just a bad film. Now it has those visual flourishes that you normally see with James Wan, but this is this film is a mess. And if he's trying to emulate it, he didn't do a good job of it. This is like those bad parodies that came out after Airplane or whatever, where they were trying to do parodies of stuff. I mean, I thought that the actors were just not good. They're so hammily over dramatic. I mean, they say phrases and then they have this big music, dun dun dun. It's like a soap opera. Like they'll say something and this music will come in, and then they play this music. It's very similar to the Saw stuff that the music comes in when they try to explain the big twist. But they do that all the time just for simple pieces of dialogue. And granted, I do like the premise involving the villain without giving anything away. I like the premise of it, but you pretty much know that premise in the first act of the film. I mean, they give it pretty much away. And I saw the flaws from the beginning. There was I kind of watched it for a second time just to make sure that my opinion, if I was too harsh on it, and it just made me hate it even more.
Oh no!
So, in fact, I think I even joked to you, Doc. I was like, they shouldn't call this movie Malignant. They should call it Benign. And I just don't. I really don't understand people's. I think people just love it because it's so batshit crazy. Doesn't make any sense. I think they almost feel. I think that if a normal indie director had made this, they would say it's crappy. But I think because James Wan made it, it's genius. And to me, I think it's giving him more credit than he deserves. And I feel like maybe making all these big polished blockbuster films has really kind of ruined him for the horror genre. I mean, and granted, I like kind of crazy stuff. You know, I like weird stuff out there. I love a lot of the 80s Italian films, or they're cheesy on purpose sometimes, but sometimes it's not kind of cheesy because it's mainly about the bad dubbing. But this one, there's just there's parts where visually it looks, there's some amazing shots in it. There's like an overhead the shot throughout the house that's really cool. But then you have other shots that are as pedestrian as a sidewalk. And it just annoys me. I don't know. As a filmmaker, it annoys me. And I wish I could, you know, I'm like you, Doc. I've loved all of the films that he's directed. Producing could be hit or miss, but directing, I thought he's done a great job. But this one, I just it almost it insulted my intelligence. It just made me feel like, what am I not seeing here? And then there's even scenes that just made me annoyed what the characters are doing. There's a parking scene that why? Why would you park at the edge of a cliff? It does not make sense. It's so stupid. It's like, oh, this will look good for the shot, but it doesn't make sense whatsoever. Brian Fuller posted a video of it where he had a group of people laughing in their living room. They said it's so bad it's laughable. I could see this as being like the new, little Rocky Horror Picture Show where people go watch it to laugh at it. But I know there seems to be a lot of people that seems to find something good in it, and they think because of the wackiness it's good. So more power to him. This movie was more frustrating than anything. I just didn't. I don't know. I mean, I really went into it wanting to love it, but I just didn't.
Yeah. What's so funny is that after I watched this, I was talking to my wife about it, and I said, that you would love this, and you would love it for every single reason you just said you didn't. It's so funny, and I'm like, oh my god,
I know. I wish.
And
I
totally, don't know you. So pun intended. I'm of two minds about this. There's part of me that agrees with Christopher on many of these, because there are some choices in here that just are like, why? And then there are other elements that are just like I would say are genius. I think this film, I think there is very much a vision in this film that I'm not entirely convinced translates as well as intended. There are, like I said, there are a lot of people that absolutely love this film, and I enjoyed it. I watched it a second time to kind of get my footing on it, to get where I sat, and I did enjoy it far more the second time. I actually had a better experience, Dave, the second time I watched it, because I wasn't questioning things the second time I watched it. I was more accepting of, because like I said, well, we'll have to. There's a lot of things I want to talk about, but we have to do that in the spoiler sections. But there's just some scenes are done in a very specific style, while others are not. So it tends to feel kind of all over the place, but I kind of enjoyed that part of it. And like the scene that you guys are talking about with the car parking, I love that. I'm not saying it's a good scene, but I just love the audacity of it. I don't know. I read somewhere, somebody said that it was, it was a huge swing and like a swing for the fence kind of thing. And I kind of get that, and kind of enjoy that. So for me, it's definitely not my favorite James Wan film. But at the same time, it's one that I will never forget, and I'm going to be thinking about it probably forever, just trying to figure out what the hell. I really don't know what to do about my thoughts on this. I'm so torn. But we have to get into spoilers, because to talk about what truly gets us going in this film is in the spoilers. So from here on out, we're going to dive into our discussion, and we will dive into spoilers. So if you have not seen the film and you have HBO Max, go watch it. Come back and watch the rest of this. Or if you feel comfortable, brave the theater. If not, it'll be out eventually. But
Doc struck again. Christopher, it was your turn to make sure you didn't hit the bottle.
maybe he's splitting.
Look at that face. He even looks drunk.
Well,
look at it.
Yeah.
if his head splits open, I'm leaving.
Well, I'm glad we're already in the spoilerville.
I'm assuming he'll edit his frozen drunken face out. So.
I'm wondering if he ever does that, but I don't know.
Well, then, sorry, guys.
Yeah.
We were going to spoil it for you anyway, just a little sooner than we anticipated.
I'm sure
Doc,
come back.
buy the good internet, Doc.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, the problem, Christopher, with this is that you're not wrong.
Well,
and that's the problem. And like I said, I think my first viewing, I was just so hyped to see it, and the visuals were so strong, I overlooked the flaws that you obviously seen right away. Well, like I said, by the third viewing, I was like, "Oh yeah, no, you know what?"
Well,
really is good. Go ahead. I'm sorry, talking over each other.
That's okay. Well, there is that moment. I mean, there are some cool moments visually that he does. I mean, there's a framed within a laundry door that's really cool. I mean,
and you mentioned that above thing,
the above
he's
thing,
up
which is
really
almost
awesome.
Like he was influenced by like video games, because sometimes they do like a camera above the architecture of the house, and so when she's going through the house like a rat in a maze, which I'm sure he was trying to do, it looked really cool. And there's even a scene where like the camera goes through the peephole of the door. And you have like the transformation of the environment around her, which are kind of cool. But
hey, look, there's Doc. He's back.
Yeah, those moments don't make up for other moments, which are just like where characters do. I mean, first of all, I don't know who wrote some of the dialogue in this script, but it's horrible. It's like spelling out everything. I mean, there's like one part where at the very beginning, and it's like he can talk, and he's like, yeah, he's talking through the radio. I was like, we know that. He just talked through the radio. Why are you explaining that to me? And there's another part where he's like, he knocked her around. He's like, he beat her? It's like, that's what that means. Knocked her. I was like, there's like so many times where characters like repeat what they say. And it was like, this is bad scripting. And it just annoyed me. It's like this film has more tones than an inkjet printer. I mean, there's moments where I really wanted to love it. It's like, okay, we're back to the visual cool stuff. And then it goes to these, and then like the actors are all like great value versions of other better actors. Like there's one woman's almost like Wanda Sykes. There's another person that's almost like Ashley Lawrence from the main actress is almost like a worse version of Ashley Lawrence from Hellraiser. And even the cop guy reminds me of Brandon Lee from Showdown in Little Tokyo. I mean, it's like there's like, I don't know. There's like so many elements that didn't work, And then, I mean, I think one of the funniest moments watching it again, it just felt like this is where the soap opera thing comes in, because the part where she's like, I'm adopted. Dun, dun, dun. Like, oh, God, this is hurting my brain, where they just make little simple things and they play this, just like, this music is just like too overpowering for what's happening. And like, and the police can't shoot straight. Like, where did they get their shooting license from? None of them can shoot anything. Anyway, well, let's some other people say some positive stuff. We lost you for a moment there, Doc. But
the internet got me. But I presume you started talking about all the weirdness in here with the dialogue and the shots and whatever. So it was really weird. And one of the things I was trying to say earlier was like, and stop me if you've already talked about this, but like when the cops do show up, it feels like it's changed from one type of film into a procedural. And that's when the shots get a little bit more static. And, she even has a lollipop in one scene, right?
It gets in the morgue. Because you always have to have somebody eating something in the morgue. Right. It's so tropey.
Yeah.
And they use very interesting things and I mean interesting with air quotes, when they do exposition. I forget the phrase. There's a phrase that's called exposition, but like one time she comes in and she's wearing a princess outfit to, so make it like it's not. It's like, is this the script that they wrote coming out of school? It's kind of like that. It feels weird, but then when it's paired with some of the other scenes, it feels like, well, this feels like an intentional choice. And for a good part of my first viewing, I was wondering, like, are we watching them watch a movie, or is this going to break up in about 30 minutes and then people are going to stand up in the theater going and say, what the hell? And then the real movie is going to start? What's going on? Because, her wig, the lead actress has this funny wig, even though the wig, becomes apparent why later. But it still didn't have to be that. It's just, there's just so many weird choices. The sister comes in totally out of the blue. There's all these weird things. But
the prison is like a Roger Corman prison, where it's like these people are dressed
the prison,
in the 70s.
Yes. Well, I'm going to say where the tropes fit in, because when she got locked in that jail cell, they're like, hey, princess, what are you in here for? And it's like, oh my God, what the... Is this taken out of a Starsky and Hutch episode? Where the hell did this come from?
Exactly. And then it goes bonkers crazy, but then there's the times
like I felt like it felt like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, where they go to different sets. It's like, we're going to this 70s prison set, and then we're going to go to this 90s crime procedural, and then we're going to go to this giallo film. It's like it goes through all these different modes to where this thing has more personality than the main killer. It's like,
No.
and the killer's like the slasher version of the mayor from Halloween Town. So I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
This movie frustrates me, and I really wanted to love it. I hate that I don't love it, but it's such a mess of a movie. It's like sorting through vomit to see what you ate. It's just like I don't understand
that's terrible.
what happened.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think
that ain't gonna be on the DVD box.
Might be in the title though. Might be in the title. I was never frustrated by the movie. I was like off put often, but in the end, the movie kind of won me over, and but it left me like questioning like all kinds of things. So that's why it left me, with two thoughts. Part of me really loved this movie, and then the other part of me was like, oh, why? And it starts off, very much like it's it is a VHS tape, right? It has the tracks running through it, and it sets the first intro thing up to be, kind of set up the tone. But I don't know if the film continues that, because when he starts to really flourish with the scenes, like when the everything transitions, for example, by contrast, they seem so different, right? And it's like, what, and it's such a weird experience. And I don't know if he's like playing with that or he's trying to use that to offset. I feel like there was, I don't think he made a bad movie by mistake. I think he did it to do something. I mean, it was a choice, right? And I think that's why some people are seeing it as genius, because some people are just zoning with it. And Dave, you zoned with it on your first watch.
I did.
Now if you've watched it on your for 3 times, are you more where I am at now, or are you like where Christopher's at?
I think I'm more where Christopher is. I think Christopher's eye was just a little keener. That's what we were talking about while you were froze. Was I said the bad thing about this, Christopher, is that you're not wrong, because it just took me a third viewing to see it. But I think it's because I went into it so hyped up and so anticipated, and and the visuals were so good. I just overlooked the obvious flaws. And the second time I was like, ooh, well. Okay, didn't notice that. And by the third time, I was like, "Oh, holy shit!" So I wouldn't call it a bad film, though. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the viewing of it, and I really liked the what we can call a creature,
the twist, right? Let's call
it. We haven't really said what Gabriel is yet, but I like that whole thing. I enjoyed the whole thing, and the explanation of what they did, and all that I thought was kind of fun and unique. Again, we haven't really revealed what it is yet. I don't know how deep you want to get into it.
Well, we don't want to give everything away, but
that's something that's been explored in other films. Like The Dark Half, for instance, kind of played with that concept a little bit, to a degree. And did Malignant do it better? Did it do it worse? I don't know. You have to decide.
There's also that famous two-faced guy. I can't remember. The American Horror Story did, put him into one of the seasons. I forget what the name of the person. It's a real person, but there's all kinds of mythology around him after he's come and gone. But anyway, so it is a twin, and the twin here was parasitic. It was a parasitic twin. It wasn't fully formed and everything, but they shared part of their brain. So we'll give that away. You've seen the movie, you're watching the spoilers. And what he ends up doing with it visually, if you just concentrate on that, is quite fascinating, with the arms popping out of the socket and, bouncing around backwards. And, it made for a very interesting slasher.
Well, and evidently the actress actually did a lot of the physicality of the villain version, so I give her props for that. Although there's a whole scene that takes place in the police place, and she's fighting, and the camera goes around. It felt very like the movie Upgrade a little bit. She's doing. But I mean, I love the physicality and the things around it. I mean, and they I think to say some positive things, I think it does make sense if you have a character that can sort of play with your visions and stuff, play with, and create like visuals in your mind and stuff, how that makes certain scenarios play like it's much more supernatural than what it ends up being. I mean, for me, something like Daniel Isn't Real is a much better sort of split Invisible Friend movie. Does a better job of some of that stuff, even though it's more, or as she spells out in the very beginning, I need a biological connection with something more blood related. It's like, oh yeah, why don't you just spell everything out?
Well, there's a lot of things that actually spell it out.
Yeah, there's some spells it out.
But there's also there's also some subtle. Well, they're not so subtle, but like when she's looking at the wall, there's the mirrors, all the walls. When the shadows are on the wall, and she's staring at that spot where she hit her head and started everything, or got her head slammed up against it by her gross husband. But anyway, so they're kind of telling us all along. But I was still like, what the fuck at the end of the movie? When it happened the first time, I was like, what? But the reveal on the videotapes that she steals from the old hospital, I love that scene. They say it. Yeah. It's so, you don't like it, Christopher, but they're like, I just love their reaction.
Yeah, that mom, something about that mom character is a little bit off. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And she made it back pretty quickly from that.
I know,
I don't understand. And I'm like, well, that's the whole point. This killer, I don't know how they. What is the killer driving backwards? I don't understand how the killer gets back and forth. I don't understand.
Well, I don't think it's the killer. It's the killer controlling his sister.
Yeah, but wouldn't she have to?
Well, she could drive anywhere she wants. She's going to think she's at the house.
Yeah, but when she's controlling, she's always going backwards. So
I don't know how she sits down.
I don't know how that works either. But it did make for a very creepy villain if everything's kind of opposite. That kind of thing. I love.
Did you like the? Was that practical, Dave? When they had the thing waving its arms and the little.
It looked honestly, it looked practical to me. Yeah, when you see it, this thing.
Yes.
Yeah, it looked practical to me. I was trying to tell if it was or not, but I think it was. If it was CGI, it was damn good CGI.
Yep. What do you think, Christopher?
I think they tried to do some of. I almost thought, well, maybe James Wan's working with the skinny dude he worked at that played like the Twisty Man or whatever that.
Yeah.
I figured that guy's much taller than her. So I figure they probably got some kind of contortionist or maybe somebody to do it. But like I said, evidently.
Well, we were talking about the little. What was probably the little puppet?
When it's on her back.
Oh, that puppet.
Yeah.
That. Oh, okay. That's what you mean. Oh, yeah. That was definitely practical because it was goofy looking.
It wasn't like goofy. I thought it was cool.
It felt like it's something you'd see at the animated Halloween store. You step on it, and it's like. It really looked. It reminded me of the basket case movies.
It did. Actually,
wow.
It did. I agree.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of that, like, or what was it? What was it? A Total Recall, the little.
The little.
Whatever the guy in his belly. But yeah, it did feel like it was practical. I think that was the one thing that was practical. Now they had a few elements of CGI blood in places you could sort of tell.
Oh, definitely, especially there in that when they slaughter all the cops.
Yeah, because like the one part she stomps on the girl's head, and you can sort of see the elements that are more CGI blood, which is like really. But yeah, the Gabriel. This Halloween.
Well, the one that once she turns into Gabriel and they got the ugly Gabriel face and running around backwards, that character's played by Marina Mazeppa, and I think she has like a lot of those Instagram and TikToks where she's doing all those crazy.
Maybe she can like move her limbs opposite.
Yeah. She's a contortionist.
Okay, then that's what
she,
I've kind of figured they probably did.
Yeah, she's also really adept at like kickboxing and fighting, and she's very limber and yeah.
I mean, the only thing that I kind of would be happy about is seeing somebody cosplay that character at a horror convention. Wearing like I'm giving stuff away, but yeah, that. Although still, it doesn't make any sense. You think like if she hit her head, they would examine her a little bit more closely. But
I know they would find it.
What do I know? Wouldn't they find some kind of split in her head? Maybe I'm crazy.
Maybe they'd sew it up, right? I don't know. Okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this up. No, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. Oh, this is going to be exciting. Dave, start us off. Are you going to give us like 2, 1 for the first watch and 1 for the third?
I don't know. It's funny you asked that because I was just thinking that. No, I'm just going to combine them all in together. But based on that, if I was just going to do it on my first one, it probably would be about a 4. But I have to take in the fact that it's not aging well, so I'm going to kick that down to a 3.5. I still enjoyed it. I really did, and I still recommend you watch it. There's a lot of really great visual flourishes in here that only James Wan could pull off. But there are some scripting and story elements that are just kind of cringeworthy, unfortunately. But I still had a really good time watching it. It's the first movie in a while that I really had great anticipation to see. I mean, again, I watched it in a hotel room on a computer. I mean, that's that's how much I wanted to see it instead of waiting until I got home to watch it. But I am going to give it a 3.5. Favorite scene? I'm going to go with the scene where in the jail cell when Gabriel makes his presence known.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that. And that almost kind of a Thing feel to it when again, I don't want to reveal too much, but when he reveals himself, there's definitely some body horror elements going on there. And watching our Starsky and Hutch jail cell mates like freak out.
Yes, Zoe Bell, redneck Zoe Bell.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun as well. So I'm going to go with that as a favorite scene. This is a tough one because I think much like both of you, I really, really wanted to love this, and unfortunately, it's got some issues.
Yep. Christopher G. Moore. Go ahead and let's have it, sir.
Dum
dum dum.
Yeah. I really wanted to cut the cancer out of this film, but then there'd be no film left.
Oh, so good. That's so good.
I will say it has those visual elements that James Wan is known for, where he has fun with the camera. But I think this is a misstep, and even if he was trying to shoot for a certain type of film to emulate that, making your own form of a bad movie does not work a good bit of the time, and it just makes it end up being a worse film because of that. Some people can sort of see that element and kind of appreciate it for the I guess the good badness of it. To me, it's a it's a buffet of different ideas that have been out in the sun too long and cause you to have food poisoning by the end of it.
Oh, God. But did you say this movie's going to give them shits?
I feel like I feel like, and in fact, I think that I think James Wan took all the elements that he loved and crapped it into a film. I think that's what happened here. I hate saying so many bad things about it because, I mean, granted, there's still some artistry to parts of it. So this isn't like a totally horrible film, but I think for me, it's just very disappointing. As someone that's a big fan of James Wan, I think he brings a lot of sort of fun to a lot of things he does. And granted, like I said, there's some really beautiful shots in this, some really cool scenes. Like I was telling Dave earlier, like there's a shot where it's framed within the laundry window that's very callback to early Steven Spielberg film. Duel. I mean, there's a lot of different shots that really cool, like the overhead shot, like a rat in a maze when you're looking above the house, or there's a camera goes through the peephole. Visually, there's some really cool stuff that he does, and then there's other parts that just feel like lazy filmmaking, like very and if even if he's going for something pedestrian, trying to replicate that just points out that the reason those movies in the past were bad is because they weren't good filmmaking to begin with. And so trying to create your own version of it is just like a Xerox copy of a copy, to where it's just a worse copy by the end of it. So overall, I was not a big fan of this, and watching it again just made me more frustrated, and it made me want to take a headache pill.
No.
And I don't know, but again, I saw lots of people on my Facebook posts or Facebook posting about how they realized it was a batshit crazy movie and they liked it. I like the theme of the killer. I like certain shots, but overall, it's just a mess of a movie that just feels like a bad SNL parody. In fact, I don't understand people's love for it. But again, the subjective art of film. But this is not something that will. If this will be in my mind as something that brings up bad feelings, it'll make me mad thinking about it.
Oh.
And I wanted to like it because if anything, it just makes me look forward to seeing Edgar Wright's upcoming film, which will be a better version of Giallo stuff. If I were to give it a rating,
if you were, you will. Yeah.
I'll be nice and give it a 2. That's a nice 2.
That's a technical nice 2, right?
2.
2 on technicals.
I'll give it 2 for visuals and 2 for the idea of the villain. But how it's pulled off is not done well, in my opinion. But what do I say? What do I know? Everybody has their own opinion what's good and what's not. As for favorite scene, I'll just say I love the shot where the camera's above the rooms and it goes from room to room and it follows her around, just showing that she's this sort of rat in this maze trying to get away from where she thinks the villain is and that kind of thing. And so I really like that shot. And I think those type of things made me kind of pulled me out of my sort of hate of this this film and other spots where the overly dramatic stuff just felt like, it felt like Lifetime was like, hey, you're ripping off our stuff.
Hey, man.
So yeah, that overhead shot is my favorite shot. There's some really cool shots in this, some really cool things, but overall it's a disappointing film for me. Sorry.
Well, I'm torn. I don't know whether I want to love this film or dislike the film. For me, the one change from what they've experienced is that I liked it more on the second viewing, because I was less distracted by the things that were like pulling me out of it. So I don't know if I'm liking, I did enjoy it. I had a good time watching it both times, and I enjoyed, just the experience of it. And this batshit crazy story about, it certainly isn't keeping any secrets from you as you're watching it. You can figure out most of it, although maybe not to the extent that they go, but the actual idea of it is definitely there. And there's, I don't know, damn it. Because I had a good time. I liked it, but I still had all the problems with it. And I just don't know what to do. But I felt like I was going to be the Christopher on this episode, and Christopher was going to be the Dave, where Chris, for the first viewing, I really thought, Christopher, you were going to absolutely love this movie.
I wanted to.
And I was shocked when we found out you didn't. So I was like, oh my God. So then I didn't know what to do. I was totally confused. I said, oh shit. And it isn't. And what did I see? And I think that's kind of what you come out of this is like, what did I just watch? I'm a little confused by this film. I think I'm going to go with Dave in 3.5. I think it's a pretty good score for this, which makes it by scores a lesser James Wan film because I even liked, Fast and the Furious better than this. And I don't know, but at the same time, I kind of respect it in a weird way. I know, Christopher, you think it's bad because I don't see it as a bad movie.
I like this better than Dead Silence. I'll say that much.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm not a big fan of Dead Silence. So.
It certainly is a vision. Flawed, maybe a failure, maybe, but it is a vision, and I don't know. I'm going to shut up. 3.5. My favorite scene, there's a lot of scenes I could choose because there were a lot of things that outside of the obvious flourishes, like when, the whole room changes, which I thought was a great thing. And he didn't overuse it. He used it like 3 times most, right?
Yeah, 3 times.
But there were still a number of shots where when they go to Madison, that she's like framed in darkness, and you see mostly just like her head, and like in the police station when they get the phone call, right? I loved how he handled that, and he did that with her face a number of different times, and it was an interesting way of communicating something more than what was on there because she was actually not entirely herself then, and we didn't really get the reveal at that point. And then even after the reveal, like in the scene that you chose, Dave, when she does the change, and she screams, you get that look on her face. And I don't know, he just framed her face really well. It was really interesting. But my favorite scene is literally their reaction to seeing the little puppet monster on the back of the kid, just waving his little puppet arms. But their reaction was just like hilariously perfect. I just loved how that was done. It reminded me, and now that I'm thinking of it, reminded me of like Signs, that the Signs when was it Joaquin Phoenix sees the alien in the TV, that one shot, and you see his reaction to it. And having said that, this is like James Wan's M. Night Shyamalan film.
I was gonna make that reference,
good one, but not a good one.
It feels like him trying to rip off M. Night.
Oh my gosh!
Although I will say, I do kind of. I think if I could say something at the end scene in the hospital room, I like how that kind of plays out. It's interesting, without giving anything away.
Yes, I liked how that played out. I agree.
Because at first I was like, "Oh wow,
that bold."
It went there,
right? Yeah. I was like, "Wow, that's a choice." But I like how, and. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that enjoyed that moment for a lot of different reasons. All right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's our review for Malignant. I don't think this was a discussion any of us thought we were going to be having, a month ago when we were looking forward to this film so much. But there it is. Let us know down below what you think. Dave, Christopher, thank you for joining me. As always, this was a blast.
Thank you, Doc. Always fun to talk horror with you.
Yeah. I wish I loved this film more than I don't.
We got some more coming. We'll see. All right, guys, let's say goodnight.
Good night.